Well, we've got a brief break in the rainstorms, so whilst the paint dries on the roof for the next coat, I'm offering in the sills, I think they call them. So these are the original sills, and I'll clean them all up, built the new end, welded them back on, checked the length and everything, and then sent them off for galving. Got that end on. Yep. There we go. And that's supposed to be butted up. That's all I can work out. And this is my official door gauge, thanks to Mike at Britannia for his video. So that's a little bit snug, so actually the bulkhead needs to go a bit further forward, which is going to increase that gap. And I'm just weighing up what the best course of action is going to be. The bottom end of that, where that 90-degree bracket fits, is slotted, but not slotted enough. But I want to find, looking for at least 1/4 of an inch. So bit of a head scratch there. Unless it shrunk when it was galvanised, which I find hard to believe. Anyway, plan is get that in, square it to that. Once that's square, I can then square it to that, so it's parallel. Then I know that I've got my door space sorted out. That will give me the final position for the bulkhead, and I can fix the bracket on the footwell and tighten up this bottom bolt. But if you look, you see the boss, the green one there, that's hard up. And as I say, to get the door gap, it's got to go that way. So I think that's going to have to come back off and get have the holes massaged a bit. So I've just undone all the bolts holding that sill in, slid it across till it's butted up at that end. My door gap's about there. It still wants another 1/8 of an inch. If we then take a look, oh, come on. You see the holes wrong way out. Now it's not, I notice it's not seen. I'm just going to flip the camera around. And there you can see the holes along it, but it's not fully seated anyway. And this bit all had a new plate on the back, so that's thrown it back. So I'm going to need to probably take both off and just stretch them a bit. Of the joy. You have to excuse the traffic noise behind me, but it seems like everybody's out for 5 minutes while it stops raining. Taking a look at the wings, they're both pretty traumatised. So, driver's side or offside, bottom of that section's had some trauma. Got to get these out, so I don't know what's behind them. Obviously the light bulb's knackered. Wings got a dent there, it's caved in here. Top section, not too bad, recoverable. So I think I can work with that one. Inner wing, don't look too bad. Bit crumpled, but I can work with that. I think they call that the mud deflector. I've seen better days. And then that internal support, which I assume connected to that, that's going to want remaking. But otherwise, I mean, big hole there, bolts are pulled through, can repair something on there. Yeah, that looks a bit of a mess, doesn't it? Not even sure how that's supposed to look. Anyway, so inner wing's damaged, but I think we can repair that. What's that one? That's the near side, the passenger side. Same dents here, down it, crease line there, and then there's a split on that bottom corner, another crease line here. Expansion tank and washer bottle, I guess. That's probably all right, but I think that's knackered. I'll probably use the one out of the donut Discovery pulling apart. Got hole here. That bracket along the bottom's knackered. But if these aren't on, I think that's only a rigidity bracket. Big hole there. Again, most of the work's on the inner wing. Same bracket gone there. Yeah, I mean that's recoverable. I've seen worse. So first things first is I'm going to strip off all the bits that don't need to be on there. See what other things hiding behind it. I mean, you got to admire the poor sod that wound that all the way in. That's about 2 inches. Oh dear. These light units are buggered anyway, so they'll come out. Yeah. And the wings stay. I cut through that because all the bolts were spinning, so we'll make a new one and then we'll get round to it. So I've got all the steel bottles and whatnot off there and took the light units out. They were knackered. They're the plastic ones. I was just looking at the what's this one, offside one with this mud deflector thing. It's only held on with one fixing, so I'm just going to grind the bolt head off there, take it out as complete as it is, albeit not a lot left. But I'm pretty sure that shouldn't be bent back like that. It just seems a really odd way of doing it, and I'm pretty sure that this bit should be basically up like that, and then that I think is where the steering block goes. Right, anyway, get off, and there's obviously something missing from here because there's bolts and steel bits. Don't know what that was either. Marvellous. So that's what we're left with. You can you can compare and contrast. Many years ago, when I worked in packaging industry, I was visiting a steel press company down in Birmingham, UK, and they were pressing the sides, that side panel. They'd only got one side, and apparently the owner of the tool only issued out one half to one company and the other half to the other company, so they couldn't sell them as pairs. But I seem to recall there were series 1s when I asked. But they're very similar. Yeah, long since gone, that company. Right, I think we'll work on that one first, and we'll try and see what we can salvage out of it. Bit of bashing and bending. What's impressive is it's been bent, so they've filled it, and then they've bent it again. So the filler's kind of giving it. Might be better to take the whole thing off, but I'll try hammer and dolly on it once I get it somewhat straight. I could split the parts, but I don't think it warrants it, and I want to try and keep it in some kind of I don't know what it's retaining any of its original shape anyway. Well, I've got it a bit more something like. I think this is going to crack off if I try and flex it back, so I'm going to try a bit of heat it up first and see if it'll move. If not, what I'm going to do is cut it back, work out what the shape's got to be, and I'll actually rivet on a piece. It's the inside wing, so it's not seen, but it's evidently got buckled and bashed, or the bit that it was supposed to bolt to, it corroded away or something, I don't know. Anyway, this was all spot welded on at some stage. That's all failed, so I've strained it out and I'll rivet that back in place. Next thing is the outside face. So we've got a big hole there and a caved in on the corner. I'll have to spin it round for that. I'm doing it all with a dolly and what do they call them things? Can't remember what they call them. That's just a weight to hold it still, stop it bouncing around. Once I've got it somewhat light, then I'll get my spoon on it. Just waiting for the rain to finish again. So that's the spoon I've been using. A friend of mine, Greg, loaned it to me. It's made by Snap-on. The only thing I can comment is it's a little bit fine, a little bit too lightweight, but it does the job all right. What I thought I'd do is make my own. So I'm just going to put a coat of paint on it and then finish polishing that face. But it's quite a bit thicker. If you look at the taper on the end of that, and it's enough to shift that aluminium around. You don't really need to use a panel hammer. You still need a buck, or a puck as some call it, but it's a buck. Anyway, I've made a few of them. They're on there, set up ready to be painted. So let me know if you want one. I'll work out a price. Money's going towards supporting what I'm doing, basically. The channel and a bit rebuilding Clanger. That's what I hate, when you get a split, and I've not even touched it yet. It does get a bit brittle, this aluminium. Anyway, you can see the bow out of it, so it's got quite a bit of pushing in to do. So I'm going to take that out first, because that'll pull that lip forward, and then push that from the back, which will also pull that forward, which should pull the other bit back in, he says optimistically. So that one's had 3/4 of an hour on it, and it's already looking much better. Still got to smooth out this section, but it's kind of in the right kind of position now. Took that out, just want smoothing now with a spoon. That one's just got a bit of a flat here, so I can smooth that out a bit. Top don't look too bad, and that's the crease that runs along. It's just where everything falls over it. There's a bit of a dent there, I notice, but it's just bring them in a bit at a time. You can see that crease here. Just got to remove that. So yeah. I've literally just finished putting a coat of paint on. Come out to clean up the gear and heavens have opened, thunderclaps. It's like a Monty Python sketch. Jesus. Keep getting rained on. So I've lashed up a bit of a rain shelter. The sun's out now, would you believe it? So I'm having another bash at this wing. I've got remains of a bit of a dent there. Can't really see it very easily, but looking a lot better now if you look down the lines. Got a very slight twist on it, but it'll pull in with when it's fixed on. I've straightened up these corners. That pulled that straight. I've straightened up this return edge, which pulled that down. So somehow I think I'm going to have to try and get some weld in there. You can see there's a hollow here. You can see with the paint raised around it. It's very subtle now, so I'm inclined to leave it. I'm just working my way over this piece here. There's a very, very slight dent left. And you can see the one there. Infinitely better than it was. So the next job is to get the grinder, clean off the rest of this crap, and then straighten that up. Found that outer wing. I think it's about 140 quid. They're 50 odd quid. I haven't seen the tops yet. So I've saved myself, what, 250? So this is the top edge of the wing running down, and the bonnet hinges somewhere here, but whether you can see that. It's worn quite thin there, and then it's split there. So that'll need some resuscitation. Anyway, the rest of it I am alright with. Just wants paint stripping now, and then, as I say, welding up, adding bits to it, and then I'll have to offer it up on the body and see how it fits. Well, a bit of a changeover. We're now on the near side wing, which is in comparable condition. So we've got a dent here. If they've got a circle around them, it's a dent. If it's a cross, it's a high spot. And these are all pings. That's the most deformation there is. Another one there I've missed. So now we've got quite a pronounced stretch ping from the inside there. And then we've got corrosion hole there, and another two there, and then the split down the bottom. And a dent up here. No, well, not very little in the way of bonnet grinding. Yeah, it's just a bit of a dint there. It doesn't look like these wings have been sat on by a large lady, so that's a bonus. There's a high spot there. And evidently it's been pushed in a bit tight against the radiator. And these will all get sorted out when I do the first fit. Not so much damage on the inner wing. That's where all that steel work was, so I'm expecting some corrosion around there when I strip the paint off. Yeah. Well, I'm going to recharge my phone, and I'll probably do this on a time lapse. See if I can get an angle that works. But I'm going to wait for the different day, I think. It's always good just to have a look from the other angles and see what you can see. And as you look down the front face, you can see this end has been pushed in, more so on the corner. So that'll want pulling square a bit. And in doing that, that'll pull that into a bit more like shape. There's a bit of a split down here. Well, I can safely say I've never had to cobble shoes, but I have had to do some panel beating. So I figured that would get me in behind there, where there's quite restricted access, and the curves are wrong on, or too far out on that one, and I can't get that one in. It's a bit wham. Anyway, I'm going to give it a go, see how it goes. But I mean, with a bit more work on it, that would be quite useful, because the curves are not too steep. So going along that edge, you could pick these up at a scrapyard for about £10. Well, this is fighting me all the way. I've got a dent down here, which is now pushed out. This one needs a bit more smoothing round and a bit of that taking out. This has worked all right, but I'm holding it and running it up and down that way. So it wants a bit more of a crown over the surface, so that way. Well, it stopped raining today, so after another coat of paint on the roof, I'm having a look at the bulkhead, because I want to basically get this in position and clamped up solid so I can get the windscreen on, and then put the sides on and get the roof on when it's dry. So I've set the sill in. I've got the door gap measurement, I think it's 37 3/4, whatever Mike said on his video, set from here across, and I've just pulled it in a little bit with a ratchet strap. I've got a 90, so they're parallel, and I've got a 90 degrees between that face and that face, which by default means it has to be that one and that one. So that sill is the original one, and whilst there's a little bit of movement to and fro, there wasn't enough to get a nice relatively close clamp section there, so I've had to stretch the holes at that end to move it that way. Okay, shouldn't be a big deal, bearing in mind the bulkhead's all new, in so much as I butchered it and made it out of new. My problem, having got all those positions right, is the bulkhead bracket to frame. So it's only held on with a bolt at the bottom at the moment, but you think, oh, that's all right. However, you see the holes, so that's with it at its furthest apart point. Now look at the gap. Move it over, and that's I've stretched the holes as well, you can see, and I've still got, there's damn it, a centimetre or 3/8 of an inch gap, and I'm about out of space. I could get what, 1/4 of an inch there maybe. What I'm concerned about, and I could tip it as it is and stretch these holes up, what I'm concerned about is if I bugger about with that too much, when my steering column comes through here, it fits into a box which is bolted on here. If I mess about with this too much, I don't want to end up cocking up the alignment of that. The easiest thing to do is make up a packing piece, but then I've got the same issue. I adjusted the distance between the bulkhead and that bracket, so I don't know, bit of an head scratcher. Anyway, my mate Greg, he's gonna have a look at his Series 3 and see what's afoot. I've even started doubting myself, thinking this one's come off the other side, but it can't because of the way this tongue sticks out. No idea what that bracket was for. So that's where I'm at. I've got a very slight twist on the bulkhead. So at the moment, my measuring stick is just setting that gap there. Once I've got this side pinned, I can then bugger about with this one. Now that's in its furthest forward place, and that's got the same gap. So I'm a little bit not really sure what went wrong, if anything went wrong. Can't bring the tub this way, which would move the whole thing back and then put more spaces there, because if I do that, I've got a big gap there then. At the moment I've just got literally I think 1.5 millimetres of plastic shim just to separate the steel from the paint. So that length's pretty much fixed. And no else stretches, does it? So, and this one didn't need any adjustment on that. So whether there was a slight bend on that sill, which given the amount of hammer that side's had, could be the case. But yeah, you can see how it's set up. So it's just the holes on the where's my thing? Those holes have stretched to allow that section moving along. But yeah, it's a bit of a frustration at the moment, but we're getting there slowly. So just to add complexity, that bracket fits onto the side of that, and then the steering box goes through. So you've got 4 slotted holes here which fit onto that, and then one wraps open over the top. Yeah. So whatever I do, That's got to be butted up to that. So I'm going to stretch the holes as much as I can and see where that takes us to. We're not a million miles off, but well, we're 3/8 of an inch off, let's face it. So that's where the bracket head fitted on to the bulkhead. Yeah. Now you got to, wrong to assume, but I've got to believe that when I put the column through, it'll line up and do that bit. But when you look down there, you can see where the holes are. Freaking mile out. So either this is in the wrong position, or it's not to the original dimensions. I think it's warped and possibly got put in slightly wrong when I did it. I mean, there was no datum to work to. I was concentrating on getting these spaced left to right, the width of them, and then everything else works off the back face of those and that distance across. I know that pulled in a little bit, and I suspect that's where some of the errors come. So I don't know. I'm scratching my head now. And obviously I don't want to drill. I could re-drill the chassis, but that doesn't seem the right approach. So we were out walking this morning and found a little tiny, what I think is either a pipistrelle or a very young bat. And it crawled onto the side of a step right next to the road and was roosting in full view. So we've relocated it. It seems okay. I mean, he's about an inch long. No, 2 inches long, if that. Tiny little thing. So we put him in the back of the stack of the wood. It's dry, not too hot, not too cold. We'll see how he gets on later on. Well, that's my cobbled together solution. I've got 5mm packers in there. Stretch the holes a little bit there, and you can see that. Yeah, I can either put a packer in there or just squeeze it in. It's shifted the bulkhead about 40 thou that way, or a millimetre that way. I don't think that's really going to matter, is it? So, using my measuring stick, I mean that's a millimetre and a half. I can live with that. You won't see it as it's going past. Just need to check that hole alignment. Might need fettling up a bit. So I'm going to go and get the steering column box doodah thing. But I just need to check that it goes through and then tweak what it does. But the box I've got is knackered. I need a new one. So I'm not sure whether it's going to tell me anything anyway. Right, I'll do the other side now. So I've caught another one of those instead of 3. So the near side unit's what, same offset. I'm going to try and get it all out of that. It's not far off. And there's nothing else goes on to that as far as I'm aware. But the door gap is, it could go another mil that way, no problem. It's nice and snug at the bottom. There we go. So a bit of a bat update. It's still sat there. I've just laid the wood down so it can crawl forward without trouble. The idea is it gets to the end of there, it launches itself off. It's about 9 o'clock at night now, so it's dusk. So we'll go and have a drink and then come see if he's launched. Slightly annoyed. Was hoping to get the screen on with the roof and the sides today. Long story short, everything started going all right, and then the screen fixing that goes in there, which I'd had in and out a couple of times after galvanising, cleaned all the threads up, put some copper slip on it, fitted the screen, made everything fit, took it all apart, sprayed the bulkhead with the fixing in, finger tight, come out, and one was stiff and the other one sheared off. So it sheared off just inside the oval. So I've just spent an hour, well, hour and a half, drilling it through. I started off with a 3mm, took it up to 4.5, then put an easy out stud in, no movement. Went up a size, still no movement. I think I've got a 6mm hole through there now. This is tapped, or was tapped, for some weird and wonderful UNF size. And I can get a replacement screw, albeit a tenner a piece, which is annoying, but there you go. But I can't get the old one out, and I haven't got that UNF tap. So I'm a bit stuck now. Part of me is thinking just drill the bloody thing through at 8mm and then turn a M10 bolt down so the M10 fits, so the 10mm shaft fits through the back of the screen, fix in here, stick the bolt through that way, and then cut thread on this end, 8mm, and just put a bloody nut on the end. It won't be standard, but the only way I'm making it standard now is if I can somehow come up with a way of winding a tap through there to cut out the old one, and I just don't think it'll do it. That's tomorrow's task anyway. So yeah, and meanwhile I've got to get some bungs for these holes. And nothing's tightened up, it's just loose, because I wanted to get the roof on, start shedding the water off, instead of making a swamp in the back. Yeah, bit crestfallen, shall we say.
Oh, it's not funny, you can't remember.
Wish these were captive nuts, don't we, Nat?
Wish I wasn't such a twat.
That's the 8th time.
That'll be entertaining for you, but it's not for me.
This will be the comedy sketch for the feature. Yeah, you can't just leave it without a nut on the back of that. I'd come and do it, but where's the learning experience for you there? This is after we've fitted about 4 million nuts and bolts through the roof to hold that on, which has been really tedious.
How tight one is?
Snug, because it kind of holds the roof on. Oh dear.
I might have been turning this a long way now.
That just wouldn't surprise me, mate. Put your finger behind the ring spanner end so you can feel the nut against it, and as you turn the bolt, you feel the bolt turning on the end of your finger, so you don't put too much pressure on. Gonna have to turn the video off, it's too much pressure for the young lad. These are what I ordered yesterday and they've arrived this morning. I mean, it's probably a mil and a half, something like that. I reckon they're the same as YRM, and they say they're a third of the price nearly. That lot was 150 quid, so that's 70. And then the two mud guards, the steering guard, box guard, and a number plate bracket, 150 quid delivered. continuing on stripping paint off the near side wing, and when I got to this section, this was filler, and there's a pronounced dint which you can actually see quite easily now. So I've gone around it. It's not that bad, but it wants sorting. Yeah. So I'm just going to use my dolly and knock it out a bit. Combination of shifting material which is sitting high and kind of like spreading it across as if it was butter, to squeezing material that's low so that more material goes in, which helps push it out. As for how you do, which you do, when and where, I'm still working that out. Still got a bit of a dint there. And I watched a guy cover it with Sharpie and then put a flat file across it. So we'll try that. If my Sharpie's not run out. So I've just found my bigger pen. So you can see the darker colours are the deeper holes, but there's not, I can just feel it. It's not a huge amount. So I'm going to give it another light going over and then call it done. So I've literally just gone over it one more time and it's as good as I can get it. I can barely feel them now. The time I've got some paint on, they're no worse than some of the sanding dips. So the primer filler will get rid of that. look round for some more now while I've got the kit out. So that's the first coat of enamel on the seat box and a few other bits and pieces, and then to spice it up we did a colour change, so we're ready to roll on those. Got another coat on each. Well, welcome to the tent. This project's costing me more in tarpaulins than anything. Rain stopped play again, but we've done as much as we can get on with today. Oh, something's kicking off. Back door's being painted up, so that's hopefully get that paint finished middle of next week, and then get that hung, and then I've got to sort the brackets out for the locking mechanism. The seat box is in. I've done that this afternoon with a young man, and the sills are in, running along. Fitting those is just an absolute pain. Getting the 2 bolts in here and the nuts on them, and the washers and the locking washers, and then the same on the back here. So seatbelt brackets, these are from YRM, and they are cut for I'm guessing a 6mm fixing, which just probably originally 1/4 inch, but it looks a bit spindly, so I've opened them up and put 8 in. It was a bit tight, but got them in. These have opened up to 8s on the seat box as well, and then these are all 6s down the back. Going to have to do some plugging of holes where that repair is. It's just holding it apart a bit more, so put some seam sealer down there, down the other end. I need to do something to hold the battery down as well. Yeah. So yeah, you know, it's making progress steadily. Got the windscreen clamps on now, albeit I think when I welded, I think the brackets are in the wrong spot. I think they needed to be up, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch. That would have made that gap a bit bigger, so I could have got full depth gasket in, but it also would have given us a bit more adjustment on here and on those bolts, because that was really very tight, and as a result the whole of the roof had to be pushed this way to get it lined up. And they're M5 bolts, bigger than what were in there, but still not by much. So I can't really uncover it anymore because it takes me ages to sheet it back up. Other than that, that's the clutch pedal and the handbrake. Because I didn't realise seat box wouldn't go back in with the handbrake on, so I'd take the handbrake off. It's a bit of a chore. And I've got to say, taking the seat box out, meaning that I've got to undo all that lot. Yeah, I think I might drop the gearbox down next time. I've made that cross member removable, so it should make that easier. So yeah, oh, and we got a wheel on. Well, we've got 2 wheels on the back. When decided to save me money at this stage and just put on some remoulds. They're supposed to be all right, but evidently balance was a bit of an issue. I've got 2 wheels for the front, which only required something like 50 grams or 40 grams each side, and the 2 at the back, one of them was another 40 or 50 grams to balance it up, and this one about 4 kilos. And then the spare he didn't, he just said it's not even worth trying. He says I'll be going right round the rim, no point. So yeah, hopefully end of next week we'll be able to have a bit more of an update and get it all sheeted and show you where we're at.